Thank you, Mylène. We're going to be, first of all, thank you everyone for being here. That was a great presentation that came before me, a lot of questions, so I'm happy to see that you're getting some good insights from the day. Today, as Mylène said, my name is Charles Jolicoeur. I'm CEO and co-founder of NetMedia 360. NetMedia 360 is a lot of things. We're at our core, a consumer-focused network of media websites. So we have a team of journalists doing reviews, road tests, daily automotive content as well. And then we also do search engine optimization, content marketing, and we do a lot of data collection. We work with over 200 dealerships on a monthly basis in Canada. We work with manufacturers as well, and all in the goal of improving search engine positioning and organic traffic performance. So this is my third year doing Rendezvous, and I always have a period of time where I'm wondering, how can I fit SEO into 45 minutes or 20 minutes? The first year I did it, it was really focused more on getting people to understand, dealers to understand why SEO matters, why it's important. Last year we talked a lot about artificial intelligence. It was the latest thing. So this year we're doing a little bit of a hybrid. There are still dealerships that have questions. Why should they do SEO? How much should they spend on SEO? How it tailors into the overall digital strategy. So I do want to answer those questions, and hopefully for dealers that are still hesitant, get them to see the value added. And then we're going to look at artificial intelligence and see how dealers who are already, if you're already doing SEO, there are ways you can use it to really enhance the performance of your SEO, but there are also ways that it can really hurt you. So we're going to get into it. I'm keenly aware I'm the last presenter of the day. I'm the last roadblock before the bar. So I'm going to try to make this as efficient, but also as useful as possible. So this is essentially an overview of what I just mentioned, what we're going to be talking about today. So let's start off very simple. What is SEO? It's very complicated, but it's also very simple. When you're doing a search engine optimization strategy, you're trying to improve the visibility of your website in search engines. And you want to be able to do that. You really want to think about it, because 60% of traffic on average on a dealership website is coming from your organic channels. So essentially, most of your traffic is coming from search engines, and it's not free traffic, but it's there, and it's going to, if you don't take care of it and your competitors are focusing on it, you're losing the largest slice of the pie for all of your traffic. Now, when we think about SEO and optimization, we want to think about it as more than Google and more than just search engines. There's a lot of things that an effective SEO strategy will do for you beyond just your positioning in Google. Number one, at the top of the list, it really optimizes your digital ad spend. So when you're doing SEO, you're going to end up ranking for certain keywords, and this is just one example. And we see this a lot in conquesting, for example. A lot of our clients can rank at the top of the page for comparison articles. And so if you're conquesting one of your products against a competitor, you don't necessarily have to pay as much or even pay at all, because you already have that visibility built in directly through your organic traffic. And we've also seen over time that effective SEO actually lowers your cost of advertising. It can lower your cost per click, because we have to look at it as how Google sees what you're trying to do from an optimization standpoint. You're essentially giving signals about the quality of your site. So when you're doing effective SEO, you're showing Google and other search engines that you have a high-quality site that's informative. And Google doesn't want you to be able to compensate poor quality with a bigger budget. So over time, we do see a correlation between a lower cost per click for websites that have an optimized SEO strategy. It also helps you with long-term website traffic growth. So on our media sites, for example, we have one article that we published 4 years ago on EV charging on one of our electric vehicle sites. It still brings in 100,000 visitors every month, and that's 4 years later. But over those 4 years, we have also 2,000 other articles on average that have started generating traffic. So when you're doing paid advertising, you're paying today for traffic today. And if you want to keep that traffic, you have to continue paying. But we saw also during the pandemic that sometimes we want to have some flexibility with our budgets without losing the entirety of our traffic. So SEO gives you that long-term website traffic that compounds. We're going to look into the higher conversion rates, but if you're doing effective SEO, it can help you improve your conversions. And also, there's some side benefits, social media interactions. You know, on a lot of dealers' social media platforms, we're putting pictures of a client who just bought a car, and we're showing that to people who have already bought the car, right? So it's hard to get that traction. But if you provide, for example, a news article on something that's happening with your brand, you can start to get those likes and get some more traction on social media. So there's a lot of benefits that come with it that we don't necessarily see all the time, but that really contribute to the full digital strategy. Another way to look at SEO is you're trying to differentiate your website in the digital landscape against other websites, and you're trying to answer the question, why should someone visit your website? This is the same question that Google is asking, and it's also the same question that you ask yourself when you're optimizing the physical location of your dealer. Why should they come to your dealership and visit as a walk-in? Why should they visit your site? Just here in this area, from 30-kilometer radius, there's over 30 GM dealerships within 30 kilometers here. That's the digital landscape, and this is just GM, but you can do the same thing for every single brand. And that's not even taking into account brands that you're not representing in your dealership. So there's a lot of dealers, competitors that your site has to stand out against in the digital landscape. So when you're doing SEO, you're trying to make sure that you stand out in that competitive field. So let's talk about effective dealership SEO. And this is something that we could talk about for days on end, at least I could. But let's start off with the technical side of things. And I don't want to go too deep into technical SEO because the automotive retail industry has a very unique characteristic, which is everybody's choosing from a specific set of suppliers. And within these suppliers, we're all getting essentially the same website. There are variations, but you're getting a website that was built within a specific construct. That makes it very difficult to start working on the technical SEO side because your page speed will be very similar from one site to the next, the markup, the tags, the ease of use. However, you want to make sure that your sites are ranking from a technical standpoint better than your competitors. And there are ways we can measure this. They're through performance audits, and a lot of them are third party. So you can take a site checker, SEMrush. They will tell you how your site is performing and tell you how your competitors are performing. You want to keep it in mind also if you're putting add-ons to your site. There are a lot of third-party add-ons, chat boxes, for example, that can really hurt your page speed, and your competitors are performing faster than you are. So you have to keep in mind whatever you're doing to the site to keep these elements in mind. Now, I will say, and please, this is not meant to be sales because we're here with 360, but when I was saying you can measure these, you really can measure how a website is performing from a technical side. So we did an audit last year, over 500 sites, every supplier in Canada, and you get the average scores here. Now, this is the starting point because I can say that with an effective SEO strategy, the last site with SEO can do better than the top site with no SEO, right? So it's the starting point, it's the foundation. But if you do have a 360 agency website, you're in a good position to launch an effective SEO strategy campaign. However, moving along from the technical side, we have to really focus on what Google is telling us when it comes to ranking. And the good news is it does tell us what it wants. Google is very good at providing the information that it's looking for to rank for search engines. So in August of 2022, they released their helpful content update. They updated that in 2023. Now they just released another content-related update in 2024. But we have to read what they're telling us, and we have to listen. So this is word for word. Google search is constantly striving to provide internet users with useful information. So you need to be providing information that's useful according to Google's criteria. And this came after the pandemic, with the beginning of AI. There was a lot of content going online, and it was no longer a question of, let's see if somebody's doing content. They had to measure, are you actually doing effective content and quality content? And they tell us what quality content is. So quality content answers questions. There's a lot of questions that users are asking online about your products. SEO is there to answer those questions. It aligns with what people are searching for at the moment they're searching for it. So there are trends, and we're going to see those trends. But there are moments in time where you want to have a certain topic covered, and other moments where it might fall flat. And then these last 3 points are sort of interrelated, but the content is not there to be promotional. We're not selling our products through our content. That comes later. So you want to avoid having content that's too eager, too promotional. You have to see your news section as your dealership floor, and each of your articles as a sales representative, right? The sales representative has to be informed about the product. They have to be able to showcase the highlights of the product, but they can't be too eager when somebody comes in the door with just a few questions. They just have to show that they can help them make a decision. So let's look at some of those questions. And it was kind of cut off here a little bit, but this is an example of when you type in a 2024 Ford F-150, the top 3 questions are all related to the redesign of the F-150 this year. So right there, that's one article. People want to know, has it been redesigned? Is it going to be redesigned next year? This is what people are asking themselves. And that right there can become an article where you really focus on what's changed in the new F-150. But then you'll see some weird ones. And for some reason, there's 3 questions related to the gas tank on the F-150. That's a second article. And it could be something like, we take a look at the different gas tank options on the Ford F-150. In that article, you would look at the fuel economy, the gas tanks. You could even highlight the range that you get with the EcoBoost versus the hybrid. You can create a full article that really covers these 3 questions. And then we even see something here, the third one from the bottom, what years to avoid buying F-150. That, to me, there is a pre-owned buying guide. So you have used F-150s in your inventory. The question may have a negative connotation to it, but you can do a pre-owned buying guide that actually answers that question and then provides the years that you should buy a pre-owned F-150 and link that to the inventory that you have with those years. So a couple of takeaways here is that you can create your content, you can find out what people are asking about, but you also can't do it all with just one article. So here, there's 3 articles just for these first 10 questions, and there are hundreds of them after. So you have to do, on a Ford website, doing effective SEO across the year, there's probably 20 F-150 related articles, taking the topics in different ways. Here are we're looking at the search trends now. Now, this data here takes a look at a couple of different GMC Sierra related keywords, towing, 2024 Sierra, new Sierra, and the price. And you can tell where people and when people are searching for these variations. And one element that's interesting is that we see that people started searching for the 2024 GMC Sierra a year ago in May 2023. So right now, from the consumer side of things, so I have a journalist right now in Tokyo. He's driving a car that's coming out in about 18 months. I have another journalist in Spain. That car's coming out in 12 months. So manufacturers, they're already giving us opportunities to drive cars that are coming down the road. So we drive the car, and then we're going to have another chance to drive it, and then there's going to be more and more details as we get closer to launch about the vehicle, pricing, specs, and so forth. The way that manufacturers release and bring a vehicle to market has to be reflected in the way you're doing your content. So it can be a bit counterintuitive in May of last year, if you have a bunch of 2023 Sierras in stock, to start talking about the 2024 that you don't have yet. But there's a way you can do both, and there's a way that you can reach the people for the 2023 and a way you can reach them for 2024. So you can tell people, for example, an article title saying, why should you buy a Sierra today and not wait? That would be your 2023 models. Your 2024 models could be something like, here are the 10 facts to know about 2024 GMC Sierra. So you're kind of going in both ways, but you're aiming at different topics. So knowing when to talk about specific things is very important. Again, we're not selling directly through this content. We're making sure that we build trust, expertise with the person who visited our website and with Google as well. And then the selling comes later. So, you know, as a rule of thumb, exclamation points should be out in terms of titles. Overly eager content that's saying, my article is the best, my vehicle is the best vehicle on the market, things like that. We kind of want to move away from that and really focus on the quality of the content. So what does this type of content ultimately end up looking like? So here we have an example on a Mercedes-Benz website. They do 5 to 7 articles every month, and we can kind of see the breakdown of the different elements. So at the top there, we have a news story that would be great for social media because it was published right after the technology was announced. So you can put that on your social media. But then you can see the second article from the top. We're actually going into the specific questions and very blatantly answering the top 20 questions that people are asking for about the EQE SUV. Below, you have the highlights of 2024 EQB, so that's more of an upper level article, and then we're going to dive into it later in more detail as we go through the year. At the bottom there, you can see this was more for electric SUVs from Mercedes. So just in these 5 articles, we've covered a lot of different ways that people are searching for these models or searching for vehicles in these categories, and we've answered a lot of questions. Another great way to use your SEO is as a landing page, and we talked about conversions earlier and how SEO can help you. This is a great example of that. So again, it's cut off a little bit here, but 2024 Kia EV6 versus Tesla Model 3 versus Tesla Model Y. You don't see it below, but there is every bit of information you can hope to find on how the EV6 compares to Model 3 and Model Y, range, charging, battery technology, pricing. So if you want to conquest Model 3 buyers with the EV6, you're in a better position to bring your ad to this page than just to the VDP page. If you bring them just to the VDP page of the EV6, what you're telling them is it's better and you should buy it, and that's it. If you provide this buffer in between, what you're telling them is you should buy an EV6, this is why. So you're going to rank organically for this. You're going to get some traction outside of paid, but it's also a great way to buffer and increase the conversions because on this article, then we link to your test drive pages, book an appointment, and so forth. VLP descriptions is another very powerful, underutilized way of using content. If you have 50, 60, 100, 300 cars in stock, you have that description that you can put information there. A lot of dealers don't put a description in their VLPs, and with AI, it's actually fairly easy to do. You just put the specs of the vehicle, and you tell chat to give you a professional, informative description, and then you can paste it into your description, and all of a sudden, you have thousands and thousands of words telling Google about your pre-owned inventory. Then there's video integration. Video integration can be difficult to do if you don't have a purpose behind it. It's tedious, it's long, can be expensive. But if you can send a sales rep out and do a walk around of the car or show how you install a child seat, and then you can pair that with content that explains the same thing but in a written form, you're going to have a very powerful tool. If you just put your 2-minute video on your site, it's probably not going to gain a lot of traction. But if you pair it with content, you can really have your videos, your YouTube page start to take off, and you're going to help your content as well. Ultimately, regardless of where it shows up on your site, it really does pay dividends. We're all about measuring the impacts of our strategies, and 61% was the increase in new vehicle organic traffic last year over 2022 for websites that started doing SEO. 32% increase in electric vehicle organic traffic. So this was for websites that have been doing it for a long time. This is compared to sites that don't do any SEO. And then we can measure how much that's actually worth. So on average, for SEO, at least for our clients, it's a net return on investment of $7,200 in the year. What that means is that if you spent $10,000 on your SEO, you would have had to pay $17,200 in paid advertising to get the same level of traffic to your website. So you can use after that $7,200 to do other things with it. But there are ways to calculate the ROI, and it's generally very positive when it's attached to an SEO strategy. So now let's talk about AI. And again, AI, I was actually having this conversation earlier with someone. This could, again, be 1 week of just talking AI, but we're going to keep it high level. Can it help you? Yes. We've been using AI at Net Media for 6 years now. So we've been using it before it was cool, and we were a bit taken aback when everybody started talking about it. But we know what it can do well. It's also been a catalyst to throwing computers out the office window because it's very, very frustrating sometimes when it doesn't do what you want it to do. So when you're thinking AI, you have to remind yourself of the SEO equation: content volume plus content quality plus topic selection equals your SEO. So we have to look in these three components where AI can help us. And content quality is, oddly enough, one of the biggest ways it can help us because it can allow us to add a lot of information to our content with minimal effort. So adding tables, for example. It's very easy to put your specs in an AI software and ask the software to generate a table. And that gives more information, more value to the content that you're creating. You can add summary points. That's something that we noticed on our media sites. When we added key highlights of the article at the top, we started ranking much better against Road and Track and Motor Trend, who were also doing it, because people don't always want to read the whole thing. They want to get a few points. So you put your finished article in chat and you say summarize in 5 points. You add that to the article and you're good to go. It can help you fix mistakes, can optimize titles. It can button everything together, ultimately. It can also help you get the process started. So if you have some writer's block and you're not sure where to go and how to start generating your content, you can ask, give me 10 article titles and ideas for the 2024 Nissan Rogue. Now, obviously, that's a starting point, and you want to make sure everything you build underneath that is going to be high quality, but it can get you started and give you different ideas. Now, I will, just before going back, I will say that having used AI for so long, you are able to detect it. Even from a human standpoint, it is fairly easy to detect. It has a certain tone, it has a certain structure that if it's not improved on, it can be picked up. And of course, if I can pick it up, if others can, then Google can pick it up as well. And we can also see when a dealership, the example I'm going to show you here, is really a dealer that has put 100% of the onus of SEO on AI. And again, a little bit cut here. Sandra said she played with my presentation, but this is a dealer in Miami. And you can see the title here is your BMW vehicle geared for the winter in Miami? And when you read the article, you can kind of tell what they were trying to do. They wanted to do sort of a fall maintenance guide for BMWs. But there is a reference in there about how if you have the right tires, you'll be ready for the first snowstorm. So, that's really the example of saying, generate an article on fall maintenance and then putting the article and not reading it. But there are also other examples here where you can see this is really generated 100% AI. Finding your next car in Miami at BMW of South Miami, terrible title, it won't work. It's too wide. You have the city in there twice. It was something 10 years ago we could do that, put the city in all the titles and you'd rank locally. Today it's not going to work. It's actually going to mess up everything you've done on the local SEO side because that title just has selling written all over it, right? So what I would say as a takeaway, because again, there's a lot of things you can do with AI, you just don't want to give it the full responsibility. You don't want to delegate your SEO to AI. It's really 10% of the entire process can be improved upon or enhanced with artificial intelligence, but you have to be very careful of providing or giving it too much responsibility. And here, you know, there's another example. When we were talking about providing useful information, this is an article that I asked Chat yesterday just to create a comparison between Highlander and Grand Highlander, which is a huge traffic generator for a Toyota store. You can see that what it gave us, first of all, a lot of point forms, very little actual specs, and then you'll get things like at the second point form there, it offers a balanced look that appeals to a broad range of consumers, from families to solo adventurers. So the solo adventurer, I don't know if he's going to be taken aback or anything, but you can see where we're going with this is that there's no actual information here, and even the fluff is a little too fluffy. And then we're going to get something like this, where if you're looking at the powertrains, the Grand Highlander may come equipped with more powerful engine options. This was generated yesterday. So if you have a Toyota store, we know what engines are in the Grand Highlander. We know how they compare. This is not answering that question, right? And you can go in and add some specs and do some work, but you're still stuck with the solo adventurer problem. And by the time you've gone through that problem, then you should have written it yourself or had somebody else write it because your team has spent 20 minutes on the article. So just in closing, this is something that because you know, one of the issues, especially from a dealership standpoint, is that SEO is not bringing you leads today. And that can be frustrating. So you have to make sure that when you set your budget for SEO, you set it in a way that can be long-term, that you can do it for a long time where you're actually going to see the benefits of it. And it can be very expensive. You know, we've done SEO audits with other firms on our consumer sites. It was $25,000, right? That's not sustainable from a dealership standpoint. So what I'm showing here are just examples of kind of what a specific budget can get you. It's going to vary where you're located, what you're trying to sell, what's your competition looking like. But what I do want to stress here is that you can start an SEO strategy for around $250 a month. And most of our clients, I'd say about 80%, are in either the 500 to 750 range or the 1,000 to 1,500 range. And they're able to continue, the ones that are doing it effectively, they're going to continue with these budgets long term, and that's when they really see the strategy. So when you're thinking about starting investing, or when you're looking at your budgets at the end of the year and you're thinking, how much should I spend? I always say try to keep it 20 to 30% maximum of your digital ad spend budget, and try to keep it in these ranges and then adapt how much you're paying based on your competition. So final thoughts, you really should be doing SEO if you're not doing it. If you are doing it, try to make sure that you keep inquiring about what's the newest and most effective way of doing it, because it changes all the time. AI can help you if it's used correctly, and try to keep your budget to 20 to 30% of your total digital ad spend. And that's it.